All right. Huge guest coming on. Huge guest. Again, not to belittle the other guests, but some of them have really been not much. This is huge. Huge guest. But before I bring him in, a quick rant about my present position at age 49. I just realized that I forgot I remembered, which is now a new thing. Because my son left early in the morning and I gave him 500 bucks and I spent the whole night thinking, remember to give him money for cab because the idiot never takes money and then calls from somewhere with all kinds of problems. And I gave him the money. And then after 1 hour, I forgot whether I gave him the money and I kept calling him and he wouldn't answer the phone and I panicked that he hadn't taken the money. Why is this happening? How can this happen to someone that you forget you remember? This is horrible. Anyway, Aatish is here. Aatish Taseer, no less. Liberation of the world is at his doorstep. And let's just say that his political views are very close to our own. So lovely to have him here. Strange, though. Apparently, the OCI was rejected by our government. Is that correct?
It wasn't rejected. It was taken away.
Like you've been a naughty boy, say in the corner, give me your certificate.
I mean, pretty much, and followed by blacklisting and a very clear message from the Indian government to say, like, no protests, no articles, and maybe we'll let you back in. You know, it's not we can be confused about where we stand. They're very clear.
Right. So we are a democracy, just to put it out there, and this is part of neo-democratic politics, where you stop dissent of any kind, and rightly so. No pun intended when I say rightly so. But I just want to know, on the face of it, is it because your dad was Pakistani? Is that the reason given? And isn't that a racist sort of reason?
No, in that they're absolutely right. My father was Pakistani, but you know, I didn't meet my father till I was 21 years old. I grew up in India with my Indian mother. And as far as we were concerned, that was how we applied for the PIO and everything thereafter. And, you know, I've met my father about half a dozen times in my entire life. And this was very clear to the Indian government, and it was something that I wrote about. It was something that I was very vocal about. There was never any confusion. Ram Madhav of the BJP, read Stranger to History back and forth and loved it and couldn't have been more sort of supportive.
What do you say?
And I promise you, and it wasn't till that moment with the Time magazine cover and the election, and suddenly it was like, no, I'm very sorry, you're Pakistani. And not only are we going to do this, we're going to take away your right to be in India, but we're also going to blacklist you. So you can't even come as a normal tourist with a tourist visa. So it's serious. You know, my mother's 70. You've seen what this year has been like with COVID and stuff like that. If I had an OCI, I would be able to come and see her. But I have to wait till she's able to come here. And when people are older, these things become very, very dicey.
Yeah, but it sounds ridiculous because if you say you met your dad 6 times and Pakistan is the whole, the problem with everything in terms of the Indian government's way of looking at things. The strange part is, what about cricketers who have toured Pakistan 3 or 4 times, and they should also revoke their citizenship because they've sort of, been there about the same amount of times, probably spent more time on Pakistani soil, eaten more Pakistani food, interacted with more Pakistani people.
Certainly, I remember with being on with Barkha and saying I was I think you've been to Pakistan more times than I have.
Exactly.
And certainly voiced more affection for Pakistan than I have.
And she's on the list, though, from what I gather. There are 2 or 3 lists. Hopefully, we're so small, nobody makes... in fact, we're waiting to be on the list just so that we can be a somebody one day.
Well, the nice thing with these guys is that no one is ever too small. Whether you're Munawar Farooqi or whether you're whoever it is, they follow, they find everyone, every little Facebook post. No one is too small to be ignored by this government.
Why is it that we don't have a better sense of humor about everything, especially for people in power? I have a theory it's more the sycophants than the actual people. We have this chamchagiri, chelagiri sort of business that goes on, and they try to please the master. Sorry?
But Cyrus, that's at the heart of the fascist enterprise is the lack of a sense of humor. So when the English were taking on Hitler, what they always thought was on their side was laughter. Hitler, he's only got one ball.
Big ball. Hitler had 2, but very small.
Exactly. That was not just a joke. That was a calculated strategy because
fascists, biting satire
fascists hate laughter.
Yeah, is that true? Wow,
Yeah,
that's fabulous. So you don't have a sense of humor. The chances of you being more right wing than the next guy go up immediately.
humorlessness for sure. I mean, and you see it with the Wahhabis too. They hate that, like the minute that kind of laughter that's irreverent kicks up, they feel more threatened than almost by anything else, I would say.
Wow. So it's worse being a stand-up comedian in, let's say, a Wahhabi area of the world than it is a farmer in India right now, is what you're
Don't you
saying.
feel the heat?
Yeah. Okay. Just out there, I'm not laughing at Atish's reference. I have a lot of love and respect for all the good work being done in terms of bridges and coastal roads, and the fact that people who spit may 1 out of 1 million be caught and given a fine. So there's all good things to look at. Atish, let's talk about you quickly because then we'll get into philosophical
Sure.
banter, and I'm sure that'll have no end to it. And without alcohol, that is wrong. Um, Everybody knows who you are. Your writing speaks for itself. But there's this one book called Freedom, is it? A collection of writers from India.
Yes, this is a book that's a compilation. It's called Our Freedoms, and it's published by Juggernaut by Chiki Sarkar, and it's a
Oh, I've
number
met
of
Chicky. Very
yeah,
classy lady. Yeah.
very
Sorry,
classy,
sorry. Just wanted to
very
show off.
classy.
Yeah. I'm a typical Indian guy. Your name dropping is all part of the. I was hoping you'd go with a single name.
That's
When
that's
you
that's that's not an Indian disease.
is it?
As
Okay,
as
great.
a as a as a friend of mine always goes, she's like, what was that? What's that? Did I just see a name fall?
Yeah. No, I love the ones who do it best. Take the first name. Like, and everyone is not Elvis who's named by the first name is enough, but they will
Oh
just say,
yeah.
so Rahul. Rahul
Right, right,
Gandhi.
right,
It's like
right,
that.
right.
I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
love that
no.
that first name familiarity.
Yeah, no.
Sorry. Chiki Sarkar came and
And so she's done this. It's a kind of compilation of different Indian writers writing on the same theme, and it's called Our Freedoms, and that's basically what's happening right now.
okay, and that's compilation. But is there anything coming out now? Because you spent 1 year in lockdown. I think the last book was 2020.
Yeah, I'm writing erotic fiction.
To be safe, or will that be banned as well?
Well, you don't know, but I thought I'd try a different line.
Yeah, why not? Why not? But then
Clearly, the political thing hasn't worked out for me.
in
So
the
I
old
thought,
days, sex was the political scandal in a sense. Now your
right.
political viewpoint is like sex for the conservatives. Yeah, wow. So isn't it odd that you're celebrated in certain parts of the world and then you have to watch your footprint in any other part of the world? Are you always like watching your back because of that, and you have the trolls out there and people, because you're going to get lots of love and lots of hate all the time. It seems.
Yeah, not that much love. I'd
Really,
say
I thought
that,
you're quite the bastion for
in,
the enlightened.
the enlightened. It's like civil society in Pakistan. You can have them all to dinner in one evening. So it's a little bit like the
Wow.
love is.
Okay, now you're going to be welcome back to India for the Pakistan bashing.
No, but it's true. The love is it's nice to have a little bit of it, but when you bring out the sort of legions that we're capable of in India, like it's definitely, like, I would say hate is about here and love is like right down there. But yeah, thank you for saying that anyway.
No, I think it's. Let me just praise you for a second. I know you wouldn't like that and probably put the camera off for a minute. But the fact of the matter is, you walk the walk, you talk the talk. Most of us, we like to go there, but then we back off at the right time because, for logistical reasons. And just the fact that at the end of the day, you don't put your money where your mouth is in terms of philosophy or conviction, etc. But you're one of those few people who just does. So that takes a certain strength. And maybe because of your upbringing, it may also be. I just think that some people can do that. They have that spiritual quality about them where they can just take on things like you say, with a sense of humor. Some people can't, and you are one of those people.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. Thank you, firstly. And
Or
I mean,
we're like coming on to each other.
I don't know if it's. I think that it's true in one respect, which is that a very very early lesson for me about what it took to be a writer was this idea that writers don't lie. Like it's somehow like I had a very close relationship with V.S. Naipaul. And one of the things that I admired most about him was that he was completely, supremely indifferent to being liked. And I thought it's a very difficult thing. All our conversations are based on some degree of lying, but with him, it was zero. So everything was an absolute base level of truth. And I don't know if I was able to inculcate that fully, but I thought, like, God, one should really try on that. That should be the benchmark, and I think that's yeah.
Now that you mentioned him, do you think, I mean, this is a very simplistic question, but since the gossips of the world are more interested in that, do you think he was like, in a sense, anti-Indian, well, our skin color and our subcontinental type? He,
No, I mean, well, it's so complicated because in a funny way, he's the hero of the Hindu right. So in many ways, he was not like had a huge, in a very unsentimental heart, he had a huge reserve of like love and affection for India. And in fact, it messed him up a lot. Like in other places, he could look very clearly, but in India, it would almost interfere with his clarity, was this affection for India. And it led him to think that, that the BJP would be good for India. And I think if he saw it now, and especially if he saw sort of the possibility of like someone like Yogi Adityanath ascending in India, he would be horrified. But so India was almost a blind spot because he loved it so much.
now that you mentioned Indian politics, it's clear, obviously, the right is not your favorite, but does that mean you favor the Congress or because,
No,
yeah,
I've always been, my work hasn't really been about the Hindu right. It's always been a critique of the way that we lived in India, and it's not about Congress, but that world of the English speaking Indian and the situation to power.
you sound like Arnab. Be careful.
No, but I mean, I
Lutyens,
promise
Delhi,
you,
bring them down.
those were because I saw that world, and
You are from
coming
that world.
Yeah, well, I am from that world, and also I had this extra experience with Pakistan, and I thought, if you see this situation, you know that it can't survive. I mean, they talk in this country, in the United States, about an imbalance between the elites and the heartland and all of that stuff. In India, it was completely off the charts, and so I sensed that some sort of revolution was going to come, but it's not necessarily the case. In fact, it's very rarely the case that a bad situation is replaced by something better. Sometimes it can be replaced by something worse. And especially when there's...
It's so cynical. I'm scared now. So what you're saying, these are good times. These could be good times.
But well, exactly.
In terms of disease as well, there might be a worse virus out there.
Right. Well, wait till the chief minister of Uttar Pradesh becomes our prime minister. It's true. No, I mean,
fashion will change.
Do you have one?
Ooh,
a gown?
I do for stage.
In fuchsia.
I may have to come and live with you in New York. I hope that painting is valuable because I eat a lot.
It's a Salman tour.
There you go. All right. Always sophistication. See the Lutyens Delhi background. You can't escape that. So it's almost like cannibalism, isn't it, from one point of view? But coming back, so where do you think we stand in the world now? Before I let the others in terms of, we've got Joseph Biden Jr. Firstly, why is he junior at age 96? But anyway, that makes no sense. But everybody thinks that that's going to happen. Trump disappears and the world starts the right-wing movement becomes less, which was happening across Europe and other places as well as here. So do you think that that's a symbolic change, or we're just expecting too much?
Look, if you think of the fact that whatever this energy is that's like ranging through the world, that's like throwing up Bolsonaros and Erdogans and Modis and all of this stuff and Trump, if you think of this energy as like some kind of global phenomenon, part of a global experience and a reaction to that experience, the fact that in this country, which whatever you say about it has been a kind of beacon of democracy, the fact that it came here and that the system held, and that this energy was in some ways like defeated, and there was another sort of response in the figure of Joe Biden, that the press held, that the judiciary held, that those things, I feel like the symbolic power of that, of reckoning with this thing, and at the same time not being completely defeated by it, I think that it will have a huge effect. Because, in the past, we thought, oh, these are our problems. These, we don't see the kind of scenes that, but when on January 6th, the world looked at America. In the figure of Trump, the world looked at America and they thought, like, you're not that different. You have some of the similar. And so for America to contend with this and to move past it, I think will have a huge atmospheric effect on the world. It's not to say that like suddenly, we're going to wake up in some kind of utopia, but absolutely, this is like the crucible of certain kinds of democratic concerns, democratic fights, and the fact that that fight is moving into a new act
And
is going to matter.
Sorry, Aatish, what will all your comedians do back home in America? 75% of the material was Donald Trump. Biden, you got one or two jokes.
It's not just comedians, intellectuals,
Writers,
journalists. I mean, the whole lot of us. I mean, everyone's
Suddenly you're
on
out of work in terms of material. Oh God,
apps.
a vacuum has been created.
Yeah.
Let's just come back to India for a second, because I just want to understand. I just take the other viewpoint. Many people feel, because BJP at least is powerful and cohesive to some extent and strong, that we have some sort of control and some sort of discipline in the country. If that was to go and we have this amalgamation of different parties coming together in a hung parliament, what have you, that might really be difficult for us to hold the entire fabric of society that binds us. So in a sense, do you think what you said earlier about worse things could come if there was no one powerful entity in a country like this?
Well, the problem right now has been the fact that that the political system normally in a democracy, there should be a kind of creative tension between the two sides. So fine, the BJP wins. Let's say after that first defeat, a lot of parties, the Tory party, the Republican party, big famous parties from 200 years histories, they go away, they nurse their wounds, and then they respond. They don't come back with the same thing. They don't say, oh, by the way, we have an idea. Here's Hillary Clinton again. Oh, by the way, we have an idea.
Replace them.
Yeah. You move, you change. And the stasis on the other side is a big problem for us. I feel like that creative engagement with the triumph of the BJP either hasn't been allowed to happen, or like the channels are blocked. That maybe it is happening on the street in India. Because one of the things that I've been feeling for a while is that these protests that we're seeing, yes, they have something to do with policy. Yes, they have some, but what I'm feeling is much, much more like a deeper, abstract sense of disappointment coming up in the form of protest again and again. And that to me is like basically the political system is not able to absorb what's happening on the street.
You think the resentment runs deep, and we're only seeing the surface of one thing, which is not exposing the actual truth of the holistic nature of whatever anger that we have.
Right. Normally this anger gets channeled into the political system, and you throw up somebody, and you like have a leader, and you have people winning. All of those things, those channels should be unblocked, but you have the figure of Rahul Gandhi, a static figure.
You can't fire through that way, so hence we take to the streets.
Right, it's spilling out into the streets. So it's quite complicated what's going on. But I think that it's not working.
Aatish, I sorry to interrupt. I do get your point. You're pointedly asking me here and now to make my case as a leader, to stand up for the oppressed, and to perhaps one day be prime minister of a combination of 4 to 5 countries. India won't be enough for my ego. I just need to look left, right. Outsource your PM.
Yeah. You'd be like the old Cyrus. Yeah. Cyrus the Great.
The Great, yeah. He had a little more territory than me, that's for sure. Okay, one last question, then we'll take a break and get the other guys in. Aatish, how do I ask you without sounding rude? Who are you? Because, or is that just a dead entity of who one is? Are you Indian? Are you Pakistani? Are you a Canadian, British? Are you, who are you? Or does it not matter?
No, it does matter actually. Like, and I've never had that problem. People like feel that
identity crisis.
Yeah, it's never been a problem. Firstly, because on one side, if you look at it in a very simple way, my parents were both Punjabis, and there was like a very easy sense of being Punjabi. As culturally, that was very easy.
You don't have to sell that, bro. I got that. Huh.
And more importantly, like I was deeply connected with India and will always continue to be. But I very much believe that it's like that whatever happens politically, that culturally, it's a place that doesn't have room for me anymore. That isn't like a place where I could like live or feel welcome or be part of.
Even with a change of government and perhaps.
I just, I'm just worried, Cyrus, that this thing that's been unleashed is so visceral that
Okay.
I just don't know if like there's a world in which like I would ever be able to fit back in. And so yes, I mean, I think of America as an adoptive home, as a place that I've had to come under certain situations, but it also means that like that sort of India historically, culturally is kind of free to me now. Like I'm able to like have
No
it as
pressure.
my, you know,
Yeah.
this is an immigrant country. Everybody here has the American passport and they have a country that they came from. And that country for me will always be India. But I don't feel that the Republic of India in this present moment is like quite apart from the fact that I can't physically go there. I don't think like on a cultural level that there's room for me there, and and maybe I'm wrong, but there's just I feel an animosity that's more than anything I've ever felt before,
And beyond the
and
government, you're saying that there's just enough
yeah, it's not
right-wing,
it's not
anti-liberal people out there who it's
the
like a
government
cancer.
the government facilitated it, but it's much deeper than that.
Yeah.
And
Oh, they wouldn't get the
you know,
votes.
one doesn't want to sort of spoil one's life by trying to fit into a place that doesn't really want you. You know, so it's very clear to me that like I'll live whatever life I can cobble together here.
Hey, you're in New
But
York. It's not so bad.
no, it's wonderful, but this was not my plan. You know, I went to college in America and I had a very clear direction. I was going back to India to be an Indian writer, to devote myself to Indian language, to Sanskrit, to all of these things. Like these were my concerns.
Can't you write
And
one pro-government book for a couple of volumes and boom, and then go back to being who you are? That should suffice.
it's not that simple.
Well, I can recommend books from the past. You can just copy them, change a few words, correct the English. There's a couple in German that come to mind. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that simple. So yeah, this change is something, and it may not like. I think Muslims are at the rough end of it, but as you sort of start to open it out, you find that Sikhs are at the rough end of it, that English-speaking Indians are at the rough end of it,
Yeah.
probably Parsis are at the rough end of it. You know, like it doesn't look like a world that
It's inclusive enough.
well that we always felt in the past that India hung together on the fact that there were all these components and they were locked together in this kind of harmony, in a disharmony. And suddenly that idea of India doesn't really, like, nobody believes it anymore. Everyone believes in their heart of hearts, hey, 80% Hindu, it's a Hindu country like the rest, everyone else can fuck off, basically, you know? And I think that you can't fight that.
But you can argue you're 50% Hindu. You can have two. This is my thing. This is my thing. I think.
But the Sikhs are not Hindus now.
Oh, okay, but I mean.
No, it's true.
All right, fair enough. Okay, let's not start another debate, man. All kinds of people will come after us. Just one last thing, not to be insensitive, but could you come to Nepal and then just put your foot across into Indian border and sort of say hi to your friends and
not unless I wanted to lose my foot.
Oh my God, it's that bad. All right, big brother's watching you. We'll take a quick break. Lots more to talk about with Aatish when we come back in a few seconds. We also have Silvery, young man from Powai with strong liberal views, and Amit Doshi, the man who, well, he should be in parliament from all accounts. In a minute.
All right.
Okay, back again. Republic Day, big day for India and Australia. Just for a huge series, by the way. India 1-2-1. Not to be jingoistic, just can't stop myself. Amit has joined us. Aatish is drinking away. I don't know what it is. We'll have to check.
Just a little sparkling water.
Is it? Only water 10:30 on a Saturday night.
Okay, it's a little sparkling water and tequila.
The loneliness of a writer during lockdown. Hey, do you guys get to party at all in New York? What's the situation now?
It's not bad, you know. You can't be at a big party, but there are restaurants and there's a little bit of life still.
So you could go out and hang out with people. It's not like you have to be alone.
You couldn't be in a big crowded room. For sure, that's not happening.
Is that because you're Indian and they're racist about it? Like, no Indians here. Although that's gone. We got a new guy now. You got the new guy, right? Hopefully that's gone. Yeah. All right, Amit.
Yes.
Aatish is all yours.
So actually, I just wanted to ask you, just based on the last little bit that you were talking about, right? When you say you don't feel welcome in India, do you what do you think changes that? Right? Because I mean, like, if we think about how fast the world has flipped in some ways to the right, would it
Yeah.
flip back in the other direction? Could it flip back that quickly? Like, I mean, like Brexit was not a thing that anybody would have considered 10 years ago, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
but these were in the societies that we're talking about, whether it's the United States or England, the balance is far more equal. You know,
Yeah.
you're talking about a gap of 1% basically, even in places like the South, whereas in India, I think it's about 80-20, maybe
Is
but
it?
so
is it really
85, 50.
the
I don't know.
BJP won
Is that true? Is that the way they
35%
project
of the
through media?
vote?
Sorry.
The
Is that
BJP
a
won like 35% of the vote.
No, but I mean, Hitler won 35% of the vote. That's not. It's not the percent of the vote that concerns me. It's when you feel that, like, when you see the atmosphere, as far as like whether it's protests, whether it's stuff like that. Like, I don't sense that Mr. Modi's hold on the Indian electorate has really been profoundly shaken yet.
Mhm.
And more than that, if it is shaken, I think it's more to do with like certain like disappointments with policy. On the cultural agenda, I don't see an enormous pushback. I don't see the kind of pushback that I saw here when Trump was really sort of rattling the cage, and you saw the press, the judiciary, you saw one after the other, the institutions and ordinary people
and people
really
who worked
push.
for him.
Yeah, people who work from all sorts of, and so I feel that that cultural fight that the BJP has unleashed, that they've been sort of victorious actually.
But you take a figure like, I know these are arbit figures, but you're saying 80% non-liberal India, the great country which allows for everybody to mix. We have no real oppressive tendencies on the outside, at least for all these years.
Yeah.
Okay, but do you think there's institutional change, or rather, do you think that the institutions in India that, so I mean, like you're right, the pushback came from institutionally, right, in the U.S. Do you think that that is that we don't have those at all over here? Like, I mean, like I know they're not as
Well,
strong.
I mean, I see capitulation completely in the judiciary. I
Mhm.
see capitulation completely. Our opposition, as it used to be, has completely collapsed. I see incredible capitulation in the press, and so I guess like one starts to look around and you think, where is the pushback? And now, like, we saw the CAA protests,
Mhm.
we saw these farmers protests, and I think that this is disappointment, because he hasn't delivered. Like Erdogan in the first years of the Erdogan regime, like Turkey was in flower. It was a period of economic prosperity, of growth, all of those things. That hasn't happened in India. So it's hard to know whether the reaction is not just that kind of discontent, or are they really making it? I don't know if there's any kind of symbolic statement against, like, Modi plans to change India in certain ways. Is India willing to defend that idea of India that we had, or was that so exalted an idea that it never really had roots
Or are we
among
just
people?
psychophans who just like powerful personalities and just like to bend over all the time?
Maybe
I
it's
have that
that.
feeling.
But I disagree with that to an extent, right? Because I think that when you're talking about some of these, so the English speaking divide that you were speaking about, right? The
Right.
absolute elite versus, like, the mass this, right? I mean, like that I think plays into this to a great extent, right? Because I think a lot of the folks that you'd be looking at to kind of have these kinds of pushbacks are pushing back. It is people who
Like
are
whom?
from on the liberal side. You're not. I mean, sorry, on the media side,
Who?
maybe it's just the people who I am
A
reading
few
and stuff
people on
like
the
that.
internet, bro. If you look at
Mhm.
the actual media is either muzzled or towing the line. I mean, we're told also from time
Well,
to time.
so I mean, like, is the internet not the actual media? I mean, like,
Well, it's scattered. It's a scattered performance. So
it
I
is
think
a
what he's
scattered
saying is there's no
performance.
big movement which you can see, which is fighting from both sides, opposing forces, almost equal like in the West. And if that's
Right.
not true, then we don't have a chance.
Well, I don't know that that's the case, right? Because again, like, I don't think that you need such a mass medium. See, I mean, like, I'm trying to be a little optimistic here that change is possible, and like, because it's not a great situation the way it is right now, right? But
Yeah.
what are the things that can lead to that positive change, right? And I mean, like, how do we make it so that people are comfortable,
Well,
right? That
I'll tell you something. One of the main reasons, and that I actually rather supported Modi in 2014,
Mhm.
was that I thought, if you bring economic prosperity in a serious way,
Mhm.
if you bring enough people over the line, as let's say a country like China to some extent has, you create the conditions of a middle class that is by default going to eventually push back against you.
Mhm.
But when you create hope the way that he did in 2014, and you don't deliver, you leave a massive amount of very young, angry men
Correct.
at the disposal of an ugly ideology, of an ugly. That's the world in which bad ideas take hold, and people don't have enough. They don't have enough to lose to defend like a certain way of being. It's in the creation of that kind of class that you
Okay,
know that.
I just like to quickly note for the record that you supported Narendra Modi 2014. Dear BJP, please return OCI, as you've proven that you gave your vote to.
I didn't support. I didn't support him in this.
allows-
I didn't support him in this unequivocal way. I really didn't. But
That's fine.
I had hopes of what he might do, and I
A
had
fresh
fears.
wind, a fresh breeze.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not going to like. I feel like that. I feel incredibly like wrong about that. I think of it as one of the great mistakes of my life, and political situations are binaries. You vote either here or you vote there, and I thought maybe something good would come of this. It didn't, and what can I say?
While we're at it, your predictions for 2023?
I'd love to play it for you. I have a
24.
bet. I have a bet that I made with my mother in 2017, and the bet had two clauses. One was, I said Modi will come back with a bigger majority than he had in 2014. She's like, you're a fool, you don't know anything. And I said the other thing that I fear more than anything is that his heir or successor will be Yogi Adityanath. And she said, you're bonkers. And so one part of that bet has already been won, and I fear very much that will be put forward.
I think if you do you not think that a figure like Yogi, like Modi, at least has this patina of like, I'm somewhat business friendly. I'm like,
Relatively
trying
more liberal than
no, not liberal, not liberal at all. But I'm trying to Atmanirbhar. I'm trying to increase the the economic situation. At least he kind of like plays to that to a certain extent, right? Adityanath is just straight up like, I mean, like over there, that's just like straight up Hindu supremacy, right? So I mean, like I feel like I know a number of people who are BJP supporters right now, but Yogi Adityanath would be a bridge too far for them. But then
I
who
also
knows?
feel Aatish, Namo has a lot of people following him with a certain rock star image, whether you like it or not. But I don't know if that's pan India for Yogi.
Well, let's see. It wasn't for for Modi
it
for a
wasn't for
long
him
time.
either.
It wasn't
Correct.
either. Like that was developed very quickly, and it took hold. And I just sense that there's like an underground, like a pop, like in every poll of chief ministers, he comes out like yards ahead. And there's something about the way that he's been positioned, the vigorousness, the muscularity.
Yeah, correct.
There's something that's like that really frightens me about that man, and that like
And he's far more visible than most of the others. You're absolutely right. He's always in the news for some reason. Yeah, okay, this is the most depressing podcast ever. I need to drink. Bartender, 2 please.
I remember a few episodes back, Amit had made this point, and I keep going back to thinking about that. It is that who will be the successor? It can be one of two people who are so prominent right now, either the reporter or the yogi. And
the reporter,
like the journalist or the yogi.
He can't. No.
He is playing politics only. No, what else is he doing?
He plays his role, but I don't see him.
No. He's playing politics. When he came out of jail, he had a rally.
So he thought he was Che Guevara for 5 minutes
Yeah,
there.
so
Are you wait? Are you talking about Arnav?
yeah,
Yeah,
we're
the
talking
one and
about
only,
Arnav.
the
No,
greatest,
no, no,
the greatest man ever.
no.
But he
Yeah,
can't be not a member of parliament, no.
Being a politician in India is still a serious business. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's not. Yeah.
I don't know about that. I mean, like, I really the way that we look, Narendra Modi is in many ways a creation of, it's not a creation, right? I mean, like, he is who he is, but at the same time, there is a media savviness that has driven his entire thing, right? His entire ability to kind of capture the imagination the way that he has been able to is driven by a media savviness, right? And I think that as we get
Yeah, but Atish's point is 2014, all that made sense. That push was good. The advertising was good. The image makeover was good. But how did he come back in 2019 if there was no deliverance in terms of prosperity, a shift commercially, or just people, just a happiness quotient not going up? But
But
he still
again,
came back.
because he was still the rock star, right? I mean, like, as you were saying, he is a rock star. That he is the celebrity prime minister at this point, right? And I think that
But
I mean, like,
he wasn't that happened very quickly, and it wasn't something that, like, there were moments in the lead up to the campaign where you could be in Delhi, and Delhi's always the place. If you ever want to get the wrong political idea, just go and spend some time in Delhi, because they'll always and among intellectuals in Delhi, it was ludicrous because he seemed a provincial politician. He seemed like tainted in many ways,
Divisive.
and and you had to really go out of Delhi to feel to feel what a kind of like chord he was touching with people.
have you all seen the movie Idiocracy?
Yes.
No, I haven't.
Luke Wilson.
Luke Wilson, but the guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the sergeant, he plays the president in that movie. He plays President Camacho. He is basically a pro wrestler president 50 years in the future, right? And
Teddy Cruz.
Teddy Cruz.
Teddy Cruz.
Yeah. So I think, like, there is kind of like, I feel like that's what's happening to an extent, right? I mean, like, the figures that we're seeing who are becoming these kind of huge, usually populist figures, right? Whether it Donald Trump, Narendra Modi, all of them seem to be kind of like, moving like this. And it feels like Arnab is the kind of like, natural progression from there.
I mean, I don't agree with you. I think
neither do
that
I. Yeah.
I think that in the end, like, Indian politics is still very, very
He
gritty.
plays his role,
and you
for
have to
them.
have political realities. You have to have, like, one of Rahul's biggest problems is that he doesn't have that relationship with on the ground.
Yeah.
And you can't be someone like Arnab and develop that relationship. Like, it doesn't.
He's talking to them every day.
Yeah, but he's talking still to a very small section. Like, to be a politician in India the way Yogi is or Modi is, you have an ability on the ground in the small kasbas and the small towns of Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh and places like that. Like, Arnab would never play like that. Like, he's still
He's happy being the kingmaker. Why would he change that?
Because it's better to be the king than the kingmaker.
I can't see him going to the pinnacle position, as Aatish says. But shall we get on with the AMAs, guys?
Yeah.
So sorry, one
Yeah,
quick thing though. One quick thing to Amit's point. I would kind of agree with Amit because I think that India has this thing about celebrities, right? Like we pray to celebrities or we celebrate celebrities.
Yeah, but we don't elect them. We don't elect them.
But we
Amitabh
do.
Bachchan didn't become prime minister.
In the South,
Correct,
maybe
not
to
prime
some
minister,
extent,
but they did get into politics. All these
Yeah, but
have got
you
into
win
politics.
an MP seat or something like that. You don't become prime minister. In fact, in a funny way, India is very serious like that. Like, you do have to be a real politician in a real way. Like, you can't really be parachuted down.
And then he's the head of the BJP. That seems odd. That he would jump over so many senior figures and become the PM. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think he's
Well,
happy.
I think that's a problem that we just generally have around seniority and stuff like that.
And
right?
that's by the way us discussing the fact that the BJP has a very, very complex structure which is interlaced with the RSS, and it's not like you can't just come out as some sort of like television celebrity and become sort of take over like the structure of the BJP. It's a much.
The RSS is not known for wearing ties, and he has that problem.
So I think I hope you're right, but I think that given the way that we're seeing issues across all different kinds of institutions. I don't think political parties are going to be immune from that kind of thing. And I think that expediency, if they feel, the party feels that there is going to be, that Arnab brings certain things to the table, or anybody else for that matter, brings certain things to the table, I think we'll start seeing that like expediency play out in that.
But think of it this way: there are advantages of Arnab. For one, Parliament will be replaced with panels, so less people, just 5 or 6 people at 10 people at a time. I think that makes sense. Yeah, and judgments will be delivered before. I think that you'll be very clear that the judgment is already delivered, and then we have the process of pretending to, go through everything.
But I hope Aatish is right, and I hope that this is like an absolute.
Aatish is safe in New York.
No, because if it's if it is Yogi Adityanath, at that point in time, we know this is one way or the other, right?
Well,
that's there's clarity
I think
there.
that's actually a very important moment because it may be in the offing. Like I was in Turkey recently, and I'd been last in Turkey almost 20 years ago. And it's quite astonishing to see what was at that point still a very vibrant society have 20 years of that kind of leader. And if you're like a young person in India right now, you have to sort of make up your mind, because it's very difficult. It's difficult to begin again elsewhere. It's difficult to get out. It's difficult to do any of these things. But I said to my mother, I said, if Yogi is a serious contender for prime minister, you have to leave. I was like, this is like that moment when, it's 1979 in Iran and you can't be a fool. Or it's 1939 in Germany, you can't be a fool. If that kind of person is in the offing, you have to do whatever it takes and get out.
It brings clarity.
And all three that you mentioned had strange fashion choices. No disrespect to the Ayatollah's followers, but I was like, why? Sometimes that question would hit you, being an outsider. So should I take a Hindu name for safety, Aatish, after the cynical program? Sai Ram comes to mind. Sai Ram, it's sort of
Sai Ram, it would go so easily.
Good for me. All right.
And your fuchsia robes.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't mind that. It's just that they stick to one color, and after some time, there's no imagination. I think you have to mix it up a little bit. That would be fair. What do you think, Amit? Amit is perplexed. He doesn't want to spoil his serious mood.
Sairam Brocha is good, man.
Sairam is good.
Sairam, it should be Sairam Bharucha, right?
The Gujaratification. But that anyway happened.
You should get the full bit.
So if a non-English Anglophile person talks, they'll say Bharucha anyway. Yeah. That's okay. You can't. It's like Bombay, Mumbai, Bombay. In North Indians actually say Bombay, which is Bur beginning and Bai second. If you actually know when you take it in Hindi and other languages, but it's very complex. If you want to discuss that, I had a philosophy where you name everything after numbers, so nobody's angry. There's no question of anything. It's just numbers. It's like sector 16, 22, 33. That's the way to go.
Right. Madras is just 4.
We left the South alone throughout this conversation, and you had to go on one blow, divide more people. All right, AMAs, quickly, guys. We're running out of time. Aatish has to sleep or have a visitor over. It's a Saturday night, and he's in America. They're allowed. Apparently.
I'm a married man, for God's sakes.
More reason to have one. How liberal are you? Sounding a little right wing to me. I'm married. Stay with a wife.
I'm just a bourgeois conservative who fell afoul of the BJP.
Camera changes you. No, but if you were sort of even marginally pro PM Modi in 2014, the right to the OCI has to be given to you. Because you voted once. It nullifies your not so good image with them from say 18, 19 onwards. Yeah, I think it's like one all in football terms. You can't back. I'll work on that. I've already made a call.
I'll have you go to go and petition Amit Shah on my behalf.
Sairam. My name is Sairam. Okay, AMA Silvery.
Right. Yeah. This first one comes in from Viral Podar. He asks. Actually, we have two similar questions, so I'll just say both of them. First one is by Viral Podar. He says, "Hi, Cyrus and guests. A very happy Republic Day to you and your team. As a kid, I used to get up early in the morning every 26th January to watch the Republic Day parade on TV. It used to be a whole event with the family. We used to have samosas, dahi vadas for breakfast. It used to be a great time to bond with parents and siblings. What about you guys? Did you all do?
But there's a simple reason for that. There was no OTT. Okay, So okay, no disrespect. You know what I mean. Sometimes choice is choice. For me, my problem with Republic Day, I have a slight problem with all our big days. Is that why is there no alcohol served when you're celebrating? I cannot understand this correlation, this
Yeah.
disrespect. Because then, if you're finding it disrespectful, there should be no alcohol. But everywhere, in every culture across the world, including some strong right-wing ones, they celebrate with drinks. It'll be like
Yeah.
today is Thanksgiving or today is America Day or whatever, and they go berserk, and you have more drunks in lockup. But here, it's like no drinking. So it's almost like it's a punishment. So that effect on the young is really strange because they're, oh, it's a great day, it's a holiday. India was a republic, we are democratic people. And then, oh, but lassi. I mean, I like lassi, but how many? 5, 6 at a wild party? No, no, no. So we've got to redress that. That's one of the reasons why I haven't voted for anyone yet. My 3, 4 points, including South Bombay parking and this, have to be addressed. Also, women with fat arms wearing, ganjis. What's with that? Why do they do that? That's so mean. I can't pick on Yogi for his fashion when our own people in Valkeshwar do these things. Amit, please. Will somebody like to answer that question?
So I never liked parades. I find them boring. But Aatish, you grew up in Delhi. Did you go for the live ones or ever? Or did you...
No. I kind of like had it going on in the background every and
I think
I was in the neighborhood, so it was a bit of a nuisance to some extent. But it was but I'm all for it, I
Yep.
mean, I think it's that stuff, especially in the old days, it's rousing. It makes you feel kind of love of country. You sort of, I don't mind. I mean, I have no objections.
Yeah, well, that and standing room. When you go to see these things, they should have more chairs because they're long functions. Indians can't do short functions. We never do like a 12-minute Joe Biden, I'm president, Trump's gone, good night, everybody go home. For us, there'll be item
But
numbers.
now that we're talking about Republic Day, I have to tell you a great story. So my mother was as a young reporter, met Jackie Kennedy, who was the guest for Republic Day. This is 25,
She had no political
30.
standing.
Jackie Kennedy, no, she was there as like,
She was
I
married.
guess, just having been like a first lady or something like that. And she was the guest. And my mother was like, oh no, it's terrible. All this, it's like a bunch of people in leotards doing calisthenics, like the Republic Day parade, like I pay no attention. And then just without thinking, like it's that kind of nervous thing, she said, the only reason I go, Mrs. Gandhi was prime minister, was she said, in case she gets shot. And suddenly she realized who she'd said it to. And my mother said, like Jackie Kennedy could not have been more gracious to make her realize that she had committed the faux pas of Holocaust. So basically...
Wow.
The question you should have asked is, were there 2 gunmen and did she see anybody else? That's a controversy which can never die, huh, Amit?
No grassy knoll
But
on the Central Vista.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not really a believer in that either. You know me.
You think the case is closed, Aatish?
I don't. Okay.
Lee Harvey Oswald. That's it.
It's done. It was Ted Cruz's dad anyway.
Okay, now India bashing is over. You're gonna hit these guys. It's like you're a serial anti-national wherever you go.
Well, he was involved though, right? Ted Cruz's father was involved in the Cuban Missile Crisis stuff. If I'm not mistaken, there was something there, wasn't there? I can't remember exactly.
Must have been involved, but not his father.
There was some. I thought there was something there, and then Donald Trump said something about it at some point.
No, I think it was a National Enquirer story.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, never mind. Never mind. I'm making shit up.
All right, okay, what's next?
Yeah,
all right.
Last one. Come on.
The similar one I talked about, if you can quickly talk about it, because we have one more good question after that, is Vivek Singh Rathod asks, hi Cyrus, Amit, Sylvie and guest, have you guys ever attended the Independence Day or Republic Days of other countries? And how do they stack up compared to us?
How? Why would you be on holiday and then say, okay, let's
I don't know.
see.
Maybe if you're like there,
unless
maybe
you pass
Amit stay there.
yeah. I'm more a carnival person. Like I said, for me, the celebration has to have no rules.
Oh, actually, wait. I think I've been in France for the 14th of July, and it's kind of wonderful, actually.
Yeah.
That was the parade that Trump saw, and he's like, I want a parade like this. That was the root, and it's quite something. It's really fantastic.
So you were that brown-skinned guy with a backpack standing outside the Bastille, talking into your earpiece.
with a pressure cooker in my backpack.
Stop! We've alienated everyone. We got no one left now. Oops. Yeah. Okay, quick, last one,
Cool.
Silvery.
The last one comes in from Payal Tomar. You guys have already addressed this a bit, but maybe we should talk about it a little more. What similarities and differences do you see between the right wing in America versus the right wing in India? To me, it seems like they're both becoming more and more similar day to day, day by day.
Let Atish handle that. I think it is the same. Atish?
Yeah, I think the similarities are very real. Both that sense of a heartland invaded by other people, this feeling that like if you don't sort of like support a kind of cultural icon in some way, you lose your country. There are two differences that I find very striking. One is that in India, it's interlaced with the history of foreign occupation. So it's the person who's like shouting down someone in New York doesn't see him as like the successor of Mughal rule and British rule and Macaulay's children and this Delhi South.
Well
In
put.
India, it's this
Generational issues.
yeah, no, it's this deep historical like feeling that hum phir se gulam hone wale.
This is the very definition of goodness that you brought up. It runs deep and deep and deep. Yeah, wow.
And the other is what we already talked about, which is that I don't mind for that voice to come up, but I don't want it to be like a tidal wave that demolishes certain barriers of law, of institutions, of like a polity, because then you're just swinging from side to side. Whereas, so we had basically, in 2016 here, a complete clean sweep. And despite that, the American political reality was able to survive and in many ways get stronger. And what I feel in India is that it's more flattening. It's more of an inundation.
There's one difference, I think, although maybe wrong. In India, the right wing, we have more vegetarians and left wing has more non-vegetarians. While in America, it's reverse. It's the right wing who go out hunting and eat more meat, and the vegan movement is left.
I have a super left-wing friend who's always like screaming at me about being vegetarian. And I always tell him, as like, one of the things that's really spoiled it for me is the fact that it's like, in India, it's almost like a fascistic cause. And he's like, yeah, no, I don't know what to do with that. But it's true. It's like yeah.
I think one parallel that I would see right between the two is also like, the development of these right-wing echo chambers. So like in terms of media coverage, where in the US, Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, etc. In India, your Republic is the clear winner, but also Times Now and, on the English side and on the Hindi side,
Hindi,
all of the
almost
channels,
all,
almost all of the channels, exactly, right? And I think that is something that I think is part of the reason why you're seeing this kind of rise to power as well, right? These kinds of these deep echo chambers.
All right, one last deep question as we say bye. It's a very long episode. People are already shooting themselves, to use a phrase. Aatish, you're in America. You've been in the West for a long time in your life. What do they call you? What's the name? How do they must be shortening it, or you must be having some sort of pet name or
shorter than Aatish?
So there's nothing like Ats or Atty? Because it would be a tough name on the tongue, I would think, for them.
They just go with Paki.
Loved in India, loved in America, loved in Paris on National Day, loved in the South, in Madras, loved by veg, non-veg, loved by vegans, the one and only Aatish Taseer. Thank you so much for being on the show. Really great fun talking to you. I can't believe that you've been stopped from entering any country in the world. I think you should be allowed first amongst all.
Thank you. It was great to speak to you.
A lot of respect. And lovely painting.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Speak soon.
Cheers.
Bye.
See you guys.
Ciao.
Thanks so much, man. This was great.
Amit, I'll just come back in 2 minutes.
This is already left. He's left. If you want to shut, we can shut only.
You want to do the ad? No, just give me 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah, the ad. Okay.